All right. Well, let's start this off integrated. We're going to do evaluating expressions, right? So this is really kind of just from the sense of math. We really need to come at this with our order of operations. All right, so that's going to be number one, order of operations. Let's get started here. Let me find it good. If we do order of operations, this helps us out with our entire um, evaluation. Order of operations is PEMDAS. So PEMDAS, right? Some people use different little acronyms, and they kind of have a little saying that goes with it, like "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Um, there's other ones that go with it, but PEMDAS is it. So that means parentheses. Take care of all your parentheses. And the same thing inside of parentheses, like a 3 plus 4 inside of parentheses. Do that first, and then keep moving on. The E is exponents. So then you take care of any exponents that you see, whether it's on a parenthesis or not. Take care of the parenthesis first, and then do the exponent if that's the case. Multiplication, division, these are actually on the same, what we call the same order. So if you saw division come before multiplication, go ahead and do it. If you see multiplication come before division, go ahead and do it. They're at the same order. Division is multiplication of fractions. And then addition, subtraction, they come together. So you just work in that order, hence the name order of operations. The way that you should operate is in this order. Do all parentheses, then all exponents, then all multiplication, division together, then all addition, subtraction together. All right, so that's what that would look like. So let's jump right into this thing. Let's move here. If you have the note sheet, you can go ahead, if you have it printed out, and you can work these problems with me. If you don't have it printed out, just pull out a sheet of paper, write it down real quick, hit pause on this, and then let's go through this. All right. So let's talk through this real quick. So if I'm thinking every single time, evaluate, and an expression means there's no equal sign. If it said equation, then there would be an equal sign. So there's no equal sign. We're not trying to solve or get two sides of an equation the same. We're just trying to get this down to hopefully one number, right? Maybe one fraction, maybe it's a decimal. It depends on where we need to go with that. But let's right now, let's just think PEMDAS. Okay, so that's where we're at. So PEMDAS. So do I see any parentheses? I do, right here. But guess what? Nothing to be done. There's no operation to be done inside that parenthesis. So what do we move on to? We've taken care of parentheses. Let's go to exponent. Yes, there is an exponent right there. So let's go ahead and just rewrite this thing with my exponents being done. So I'm going to take -3 squared. Anytime you go squared, it really means -3 times -3. Since that negative is in the parenthesis, it comes along with that 3. So if I did -3 times -3, negative times negative is a positive, 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to get 9 plus 6 divided by -1, right? So that's what that looks like. I have taken care of all exponents, so I'm good there. So let's move on to the next one. It is multiplication or division, whatever I see first, moving this direction, right? Just moving from left to right. So I see addition come up, 9 plus, don't want it to do anything with that, 6 divided by 1. Well, there's our division right there. And so there's no multiplication, so let's go ahead and take care of that, right? So as we take care of that, we get 9 plus 6 divided by -1 is -6. So that took care of my multiplication division because I have no more. So now I move on to addition, subtraction. So 9 plus -6, right? That is an addition right there. So we're going to take care of that. Now, here's what I like to do. Negative plus a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So let's just rewrite this as 9 minus 6. And if I take 9 minus 6, I get 3. So there is the full-on evaluation of that first problem. But really just working through this. PEMDAS, that is what we have to do every time we evaluate, that we are trying to operate on this expression, but there is a required order in order to do so. Okay, let's try number 2 real quick. If you just want to go through and do that, you can. And we can wait. You can pause it right here and just do it. Or let's just work through it together. So I'm still thinking PEMDAS, but here's the deal. I see minus, minus, minus. So there are no parentheses, there are no exponents, there's no multiplication or division. We are just at the addition subtraction, right? So, and it's all subtraction. So what that means is you work your way from left to right, like you're reading a book here. And we're gonna do each thing. I'm gonna do it one step at a time. So I'm gonna take the first step. 2 minus 9 is -7. And then I'm just gonna bring along the -3, -6. So let's do the next group. That's -7 minus 3. That's -10 minus 6. Let's go ahead and do the next group. -10 minus 6 is -16. And we're done. That's it. There's the evaluation of that problem, right? So that's evaluating right there. Let's go ahead and let's clean this up by doing another one. Okay, number 3. Again, you can pause it here. You can go ahead and work through it and then watch me do it, or let's do it together. So I know I keep rewriting PEMDAS over and over again. I just want to reiterate this idea of PEMDAS over and over and over again. Right, so here we go. Now, here's what I do want you to know is that anytime you see a giant divide by sign, if it is dividing an entire group, imagine the top and the bottom all being in their own parentheses, which means this is actually the P, the top of this thing. We need to take care of all of that before we can move on. That's the parentheses. So inside the parentheses, that's what we are going to work on first. Okay, so let's do this. Depending on how you look at this right here, this right here is a minus, a negative. So we can consider that multiplication because we can multiply those two things together, or we consider it just changing the signs of what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go with the change method. So really what I got is -5 plus, right? And that's taking care of the minus negative. Minus a negative is the opposite of negative is a positive. Plus 1 minus 6, all still divided by 10, right? So that's kind of what that looks like right there. Okay, let's keep going. Remember the top, imagine that the top has a giant parentheses on it because it's all on top of the fraction bar. And so it's considered a parenthesis the way that it's written. So let's go -5. So I'm just going to do this in order, right? So I'm going to get -4 because -5 plus 1 minus 6. So it's keeping that, just showing that step at a time, just so you can kind of stay with me on the steps here. So now I'm still doing what's in the parentheses. So now I'm going to end up with -10 on the top and 10 on the bottom, right? That's putting the -4 minus 6, that's -10. Now notice I've just let the parentheses just go away. If you want to keep the parentheses there, you can do it, right? You're just going to see there's no more operations to do within that parenthesis. So we're done at that point. So now, if I wanted to, let me just go ahead and take those parentheses back off just because they kind of fall away because there's nothing left to do inside there. So now all I see is division. It's a fraction, right? So we took care of all parentheses. There were no exponents. We kind of took care of multiplication and division together. Oh, no, sorry. We did not take care of multiplication and division because right here, this is division. So let's go one step further. The -10 divided by +10. Negative divided by positive is going to give me a negative value. 10 divided by 10 is just 1. So -1. That is our answer right there. That's my bad. I kind of got a little bit sidetracked there. Let me get this going again real quick. Hey, now you see 2 of me. Don't worry about that. We're getting back to it. And here we are. Okay, we're back. So that's what that looks like right there. Order of operations. Okay, so let's do this. What happens if we have to evaluate? Well, this is the exact same thing. It's order of operations, but first thing you have to do is plug values in. So let's get to it. Let's plug values in, right? So what this is trying to tell me, is that x is equal to -5, y is equal to -3, okay? So you're gonna take everything you see, every time you see an x, put in a 5. Every time you see a -3, put in, or a y, you put in a -3. So let's do this. It's absolute value sign, -3. right? That's just putting the y right there, minus absolute value sign, plugging the x in, right? We call this substitution. That's the mathematical term for it. 5 squared absolute value sign. Okay, that's what that looks like. So let's get right to it. So an absolute value sign, remember an absolute value sign means how far is that value from 0. And we treat it like a parenthesis, right? So if there was junk to do inside there, do that junk first, whittle it down to a number, and then say how far is that number from 0. -3 is in fact 3 units from 0. So -3 becomes +3. Absolute value always makes this result positive because we're talking about distance from 0. So that's it. Minus, okay, here is the deal. Treat it like a parenthesis, right? So an absolute value is like a parenthesis. So in the world of PEMDAS, the P parenthesis absolute value treats it. So that's why we evaluated that one, because it was what's inside the parenthesis. Now notice this has more stuff to do inside the parenthesis. So let's do it. I'm going to keep the parenthesis there for a moment. 5 squared is 25. But I'm going to keep the absolute value sign because that still acts as its parenthesis. Now, as I talk about it, I need to say, what does it actually mean? So 3 minus, because that minus sign just kind of hangs out there, absolute value 25. How far is 25 from 0? 25 units. You're right. So 25 is what that happens to be. Now, notice since that was a minus sign here, it's still a minus sign here. It's still a minus sign there, just because it was the separator between those things. So leave it. So 3 minus 25 is -22. And we're done. Just like that. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's kind of put these on a little bit of a supercharger. Like, let's do a little bit faster, right? X and Y. So again, if you need to, pause it here, go ahead and work through it, and then resume, and let's see how we're doing on that. All right, but here's what I'm gonna do. Substitute X in here, substitute Y in here. So I'm going to go -3 plus. Now that's a -2. I'm going to put parentheses on it just so you can see that the whole -2 needs to be cubed, right? So it's -2 plugged in, cube it. Plus absolute value -4. So your first job, substitute. Now let's start thinking about PEMDAS. Right? Over and over and over again, we are going to do this again and again and again. Okay, so here we go. Do I see any parentheses? Remember, you're treating this parenthesis. There's nothing more to do inside that parenthesis. We're treating this like a parenthesis, but it's a special parenthesis. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that parenthesis first. So I got -3 plus that one. Remember, it's not going to change, right? It's just because it's -2. There's nothing really to do. Plus -4 absolute values say how far is it from 0? It's exactly 4 units from 0. So that just changes it to a positive. So now we're done. It's taking care of that parenthesis. Right? So in that case, parenthesis done. So let's go to exponents. Well, I do see a little bit of an exponent right here. So let's go ahead and clean that up, right? -3 plus, well, what's -2 cubed? So remember, anytime you cube, let's zip this over here, -2 times -2 times -2. Okay, so -2 times -2, that's a +4 times -2, 4 times -2 is -8, right? So the cube, 2 cubed is 8, but negative times a negative times a negative, we'll keep it a negative. So then we got -8 there, plus 4, and we have taken care of our exponents. Multiplication, division, nada. So let's get right into the addition, subtraction, all right? So -3 plus -8, well, that's -11 plus 4. -11 plus 4 is -7. And we're done, right? That's what it looks like right there. And we've evaluated that one. All right, last one real quick. I'm just going to zoom right through this. Let's see if we can get it done. Again, go ahead and pause it, give it a shot if you want. That way you can see how you're doing on it. So we're going to plug a -7 in there, a -7 in there, a +8 in there. All right, anywhere we see those things, we're just going to plug those things in. So -7 minus parentheses -7 minus 3 minus absolute value 8. Absolute value, close. All right, let's think about PEMDAS. Okay, so I definitely see parentheses. We need to take care of all the junk inside the parentheses, but then there's another set of parentheses inside the parentheses. You just keep going from the inside. So parentheses inside parentheses, do the parentheses, work your way out to the big parentheses, and make sure that's all taken care of before you work your way out further. Right? So just kind of PEMDAS tells us where to focus, right? What order to work on. So I'm going to go -7 minus -7 minus 3 minus absolute value of 8 is just a +8. Okay, that took care of that. So let's keep working inside the parentheses. -7 minus, let's work left to right. And since it's all the same operation, I'm just going to kind of do this at one time. -7 minus 3 is -10 minus 8. That's going to give you a -18. Right? So that's what that one looks like right there. Keep working. So I have done, so there's nothing else to do inside this parenthesis. So the next thing, we look for exponents, none. So now we're at the multiplication division. Technically, this little section here is called multiplication. It's a -1, right? So I could literally put a 1 here times -18. So what that really becomes is -7 plus 18. Sometimes we call it like change it. It's just a negative, a minus, a negative, which makes it a positive, right? That kind of stuff there. So -7 plus 18 is 11, and we are done. And there you have it. That's evaluating expressions. Sometimes they're going to give you everything you need right in there. Sometimes you're going to have to do a little substitution first to get it done. But at the end of the day, this is what we need. Order of operations. Whenever you're evaluating expressions, think PEMDAS. Work your way from parentheses all the way to the least order, which we call is addition, subtraction. So that's what it looks like right there. You know, give those a shot. Those are some 6 examples. We'll come back to class and we will kind of finish this up. All right.